Alright, so this video is going to cover Exoskip in its entirety and how to do the wall crawl as a whole, because Exoskip does not have a genuine tutorial at the moment, so I decided to make this to break things down. So Exoskip is essentially a way for you to get out of bounds in Crater Tunnel B and traverse your way out of bounds through all these subchambers and then eventually hit the cutscene trigger here at subchamber 5 and then enter Metroid Prime layer. In order to do that, we have to use a Metroid to clip through a small space in the Crater Tunnel B door here on the right. And in order to do that, we need to drag it all the way up there. And the best Metroid to do that with is the one that's down here at the bottom. The one up above, I believe you can also use, but it's a lot less consistent. And there's a good method that you can use to climb up here. So I'm going to save state. So the best way to take care of this Metroid immediately is to boost up here and wall boost and lay a power bomb here, because the plan is to the plan is to kill the Metroid as it approaches you. As you can see, the Metroid will attempt to come after you, but if you lay a power bomb in its path, it will die immediately. And this is very important because it's going to respawn and be locked onto us. So what we want to do now is do Phase Encore quick climb as soon as possible. You don't have to do this, but it's much faster. So we want to ignore this Metroid, try and climb as soon as I can. The best way to also do this is to get a charge shot to hit the door here to Crater Tunnel B. You want to hit it slightly to the left of the door, try to use the splash damage. There we go. And as soon as you get to this, you want to transition to Crater Tunnel B. And you want to make sure that the upper Metroid in the middle of Phase Encore is sort of out of your radar, because we want it to leave us alone. And so if I look at the radar, it's nowhere to be found. Okay, now I'm going to transition to this room. Now this Metroid down here is the one that we killed earlier. It just respawned. And this is the most important part of Exoskip, is actually bringing the Metroid into Crater Tunnel B. Because normally when you bring a Metroid inside a room that it's not supposed to be, it will just die. But there is a way we can bring it in by bombing it while we're still transitioning to Phase Encore. So I can be inside this room, sort of on the edge of the door here, without being transitioned to Crater Tunnel B. Because if I open the map, it still says I'm in Phase Encore. But if you look at where I am, I'm sort of on the edge of the door to Crater Tunnel B. And this is a very important spot. So this Metroid it's not going to be able to come in like this. So if we morph here, it's going to try and grab us like this. And it'll try to, and you'll sort of get pushed back into the room. And if you get pushed back too far, obviously what just happened is the Metroid's going to die. And that usually happens when you transition into Crater Tunnel B. If this does happen, you can wait for the Metroid to respawn. It'll come back. There we go. So what we want to do is we want to bomb the Metroid before we get far enough in that we transition to Crater Tunnel B and kill them, and it won't kill the Metroid. So basically, it's going to alert us, and now that it's grabbed us, what we want to do is we want to let it come in just a little bit. As you can see, I'm holding the control stick away completely. It did still slowly drag in, but it didn't completely go in. So we can use that period of time to bomb the Metroid and drag it into Crater Tunnel B. Also note that the Metroid can occasionally get stuck on its way here. As you can see on the radar that it's sort of at a very light orange color. That means it's below you. If that happens, just come over here. It'll figure out what it's doing again. So we want to morph, let it grab us, and then hold away and bomb. And bombing that will bring it into here. There is a problem, is that it occasionally will get out of bounds, and Metroids cannot go out of bounds or else it will die like that. There is a way to prevent that I will show later, but for now I want to get this method across. We just want to make sure we're sort of on the rim of the door here. Any side will work. Again, as you can see, it says I'm in Phase Encore on the map. That means it's transitioned to Phase Encore. So we're just going to wait for the Metroid to come back. And again, it's going to grab us, and we're going to hold forward. Okay, now it's whole. Now that it's in, we brought it. And once again, it can get out of bounds very easily. I'm going to show this one more time, and then I'll show for this method, or this time, the method that we use to prevent that Metroid from dying. Because it can get out of bounds, but there is a way you can prevent it from getting completely taken out. It's actually a very weird method, but I will show it here in a second. So we just wait for the Metroid to come up, make sure it's not stuck, use that radar as a reference. As you can see, the Metroid is not moving, so I'm just going to come out here and go back. There we go, the Metroid's here. Move at the door. Let it be dragged in bomb. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look to the side here, and we're just going to shoot the wall. I don't think you have to shoot the wall, but just look at the side here. Many people just like shooting the wall. And boom, that Metroid was out of bounds, but now it's in bounds. To be honest, I have no idea why this works, but it just does. So after you bring the Metroid in, just look to the side here and wait until you hear the Metroid, or look at the Metroid on your radar and you see it moving again, and just look back. So now what we have to do is we have to enter this room so that we can get wedged in this corner and clip out of bounds. So thing is that when we're transitioned to Phase Encore, the Metroid will act normally, like it will do its behavior here, try and attack you. But when you're transitioned to any other room, let's say once we transition to Crater Tunnel B, let me see if I can actually do that right now. I don't have the room for it. But basically when we're transitioned to a room that the Metroid's not supposed to be in, it'll just do an idle animation. And we can abuse the fact that it's in that idle animation to give us sort of a damage boost and clip out of bounds. So the best way to do this is using T3 setup. And T3 setup involves waiting for this Metroid to dash at you twice. We align it with the middle here, about where this little space is between the Spire Track and this sort of, I don't even know what to call that, root in the wall here. So you only need to let it dash twice. You cannot get it when it dashes once. So once it's in the middle of its second dash, or as it sort of lurches back to charge you, as it lurches back, or rather right after it lurches back, we want to morph and hold forward and enter Crater Tunnel B, like this. There we go. Whoops. By the way, if this door ever closes on you, don't worry, the Metroid's still here. It's just secretized. Just shoot the door to open it. Just try not to hit the Metroid. But yeah, as you can see, now I'm in Crater Tunnel B, the Metroid will do this idle animation. And yeah, as you can see, it's faced towards this little space here. This is actually where we want to be to go out of bounds. You'd actually see this little crevice here. This actually shows that the door is not completely in bounds, or there's some spaces here that don't have collision that we can use to clip out of bounds. So now that we are in Crater Tunnel B with the Metroid, normally you would stay morphed. I just unmorphed to show off this here. Actually, let's go out of here again so I can show this up when it's full. So let's align with this space here. That's the first dash. Wait for it to dash twice. There we go. Just enter it like that. So now what we want to do is we want to, whoops, you can get force morph there. Don't worry about that. It happens. Now that the Metroid is here, what we want to do is we want to align the camera where it's parallel to the door, or essentially we are facing the side of the door here, like this. So the best way to do that is to do a camera manipulation. So I can show it best here, is sort of by rolling around the Metroid in a specific way. Like this. Oops, not like that. Let me try that one more time. We got a bad position for the Metroid. You want to try and transition the room as soon as it's finished with its dash. And don't try and go forward too much because we don't want it to grab us. So if you go over here, when you're morphed, you can sort of wiggle around the Metroid. So this is a decent angle, but we can get a better one. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to wiggle around the Metroid. Not like that. If you ever have trouble with the camera and you want to take control of it, you can use the L button, because the L button will always try to make the camera face behind the morph ball. So I roll around the Metroid like this, and it automatically brings the door to be parallel. So this is a good position to get wedged. So let's say I mess up the camera like this, or I just wiggle around the Metroid like this, right next to it. right, and then go down, and then to the left. So now we need to get Wedge in the corner. And the best way to do this is when the Metroid is doing the side animation where it's sticking out enough that'll hit us from the side. When it goes to the left, or when it sort of swerves to the left, that's when it's going to be hitting us when we're in that corner. So we need to get into the corner right after it finishes doing this left swerve. So let's fix the camera here. It does left swerve, and we get in the corner. This is where you want to be. Now, as you can see, I didn't get clipped out of bounds there because there's a specific way to do it. So, but let's just try and get in the corner again. So let's fix the camera. It looks good. Wait for the left swerve. Get in. Oh, wait. There we go. Get in the corner. Yeah. So now that you know how to do that, we need to actually clip out of bounds. And as you can see by the fact that I just didn't get it randomly, it's pretty tough. Oh, I got it there. So you don't actually want to be in the corner right here between the door. That's not going to work. We actually want to be slightly forward compared to that. There's no sort of visual indicator. You just sort of have to feel it out. But what I can tell you is that you always have to be just slightly forward from where you're standing. So I get in the corner, and as the Metroid's coming, I hold forward a bit. There I went too far forward. You only want to sort of wiggle forward just a tiny bit. Get in there, hold forward. Okay, didn't get it there. You don't need to hold forward very much, just hold forward a bit. You also want to try and enter the corner as carefully as possible because we don't want any stray velocity or speed. Okay, there I was too far forward. So we're going to hold forward here. Okay, that was too far forward. Okay, in the corner, going to be holding forward here. We want to hug the corner, and then is the Metroid. Okay, it's done with this left swerve. Hold the corner here. There we go. So we're not completely in the corner. We're just slightly in front of it, like that. Forward, slightly in the corner. Hold forward a bit. There we go. Keep trying it a few times. In the corner, hold forward about here. Okay, I believe that was too far forward, or too far to the right, technically. Here's a good example where the camera goes a little wonky. There we go. Now the camera's more to the side. Okay, in the corner, hold forward. There we go. So just try and replicate that. You can maybe use where I am clipped out of bounds. You want to pause the video on where I clip out of bounds or right beforehand. You can try and use a polygon as maybe a reference. I personally just have a feel for it. It's kind of muscle memory, but you can take a look at that, slow it down. So now that we know how to clip out of bounds, we can just go with that. You can just unmorph as you clip out of bounds, but you will hit the aether floor. So an alternative is to do an instant unmorph jump because the camera gets obscured for a while, or for a little while after you clip out of bounds. It is a small window though, so what a lot of players do is as soon as they clip out of bounds, or when they predict they will clip out of bounds, they'll open the map. And the reason for this is because that the map will perfectly allow you to close it and then regain control of gameplay on frame 1, and it'll give you a good indicator for when you'll be able to get the instant morph jump, since the sort of time window or time frame for when you clip out of bounds is hard to tell or hard to gauge. So let me try and perform that here. So once again, fix the camera. Go here. So now I'm going to, as the Metroid starts to swerve near me, I'm going to hold the map here. I can also get a better tell if I'm in the right spot. Okay, and as you can see, my morph ball completely disappeared. So I map buffered on the exact frame that I got knocked out of bounds. So you can't unmorph immediately here. We want to unmorph as late as we can. I'm going to save state here. I'm going to try and unmorph immediately. And as you can see, I didn't get an instant unmorph. I just unmorphed normally. That's not the way to get an instant unmorph jump. So we're going to wait a little bit here. Okay, there we waited too far because we didn't get the time. There's only a small frame window, so we want to unmorph pretty late. There you saw I unmorphed too early. early again. There. Whoops, I missed the standable. But from when you get that instant morph jump, you sort of want to roll the stick. If you look at my left stick in the input display, you want to sort of roll the stick up and to the right and then back and sort of down left or down right. Because if we look at Crater Tunnel B, if you see where it sort of goes into this quadrilateral shape and then goes into that rectangular prism, we want to find the standable is in that point where the two shapes connect. That may be a little hard to explain, but let me try and get to the standable so I can refer to what I'm talking about. Whoops, I accidentally warped. Morph, try and morphlate, didn't work. You can also hold forward. I think maybe if you hold right, you can maybe get a better chance, but it's ultimately up to you. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, I'm standing on this point on the map. It's hard to tell because the room is not transitioned, but you should be about right here. I believe there's also a standable very close to the door, but I'm not showing that off right now. This is the one that has been the most reliable for me. There we go. Let's transition the room so maybe we can get a better idea of it. But we want to stand on the collision right here. This is the easiest point. This is where the wall crawl will really start. But let's talk about what happens if you don't get the instant morph jump and end up falling. So here, I'll just show here. Oh, actually, that's right. But you're going to be in free fall. Whoops, the Metroid can still hit you there. You're going to be in free fall, and there's not much you can do to manipulate what direction you're going. Your best chance of making it to the Aether out here is to simply morph as you're falling to try and get some momentum to land into it. It's still pretty uncommon. So most of the time you'll end up just on the Aether floor and you'll get staggered. So now we're just gonna have to Aether jump back up. You still have the opportunity to save time on doing exo skip as long as you do the wall crawl pretty quickly. But now we have to find the corner. And my indicator for the corner is sort of this orange vein here that sticks out of the ground. This is what the Metroids are supposed to spawn out of. And you can also use this sort of crack in the middle of these two craters, tiny craters. And the Aether box is pretty far out. So I'm going to say like right here, as you can see my arm cannon is bombing. And I'm going to jump, and as soon as I do that, I'm going to hold back. So I enter the Aether now, and I'm going to hold right and try to align myself with that orange vein I mentioned earlier. And it looks like I fell a little too far. This Aether box is quite big, so it's easy to miss the corner. There we go. I also like to spam the jump button while finding the corner just to make sure if I have a bad corner, it's more likely that I won't fall and I'll get the Aether jump. So now I'm currently looking. If I look at this side, as we can see, as my crosshair sort of crosses over the middle of it, I'm falling. That means I found the corner. So obviously just Aether jump back up. If you're not too talented with Aether jumping, then it's a little dangerous or a little difficult trying to get back up here. But you want to Aether jump pretty high up. Whoops. Let's go back a little bit. If you feel like you're falling too much, just flick the stick back just a tiny bit. That way you'll get the better corner. So you can go up as high as you want. Normally this room would be invisible. I'm putting invisible for now, but basically the easiest way is to just align yourself with the door and just go on top of it. You'll likely land on something standable here. If not, don't worry, just hold L, and if you're concerned you're gonna fall, feel free to bomb jump, and you would just land on the door. You can also, from the Aether, if I can just find the corner again real quick. There we go. If you're brave enough, you can perform a jump straight to the door, like that. It is faster, but it's more dangerous. Also note that it's easy to fall right there. But yeah, that's the easiest way to get to the door. Personally, I recommend if you're just doing this wall crawl for the sake of finding something interesting and new to learn, just do the method of going over. If you're actually someone who really wants to add this to your tool set as a speedrunner or a randomizer racer, then maybe consider practicing that R jump to this. So now let's talk about the wall crawl itself. So once you land on the door, you want to obviously transition this room to Crater Tunnel B, because it's very likely that you will transition to Phase Encore on your way out of doing the Secret World. So you can just jump while hugging this door to transition the room. Very easy. As you can see, that Metroid goes to IL animation, as I mentioned before. And once we're here, we want to do an NSJ jump about right here, sort of up around this standable area. Now, there are multiple ways to go about this, so I'll just show you what I think is the best way. Is I like to perform an R jump and hold L to wait till we land on collision here. So just note that when you land in the Aether, and thing is the Aether here, or the Aether box, is pretty small, so it's easy to land in the Aether. As you see, I'm in it. That you will not be able to actually touch the loading trigger from the Aether. So my strategy involves staying within the Aether box as much as possible. So from here, I usually R jump to whatever, and there tends to be there's almost always a standable, not almost always, there just is always a standable that you'll end up getting repositioned onto. And regardless of where you end up, whoops, don't hold in too much. Regardless of where you end up, that was pretty good. We land around a standable. We want to land on this sort of spike. So I usually like to do an L jump, and in midair, I look to the side while I do it. If you do that, and you don't land in the Aether, that will guarantee you hit this loading trigger, which loads this room right here. So jump here, perform an R jump, wait till you get on a standable, which doesn't take very long. Oh, be a little careful though, because if you move too far to the side or the right here, you will end up landing in the Aether, and that's bad because it's easy to fall out. So just jump onto this spike. Whoops. Be a little careful because sometimes you will slide off because it is sloped. That's why you want to try and land directly in the middle of it. If you do fall, I wouldn't panic. You don't want to just hold L. You need to act. I have a backup strategy for when you do fall, and you essentially wiggle across the wall to get a standable. So let's say I missed this by a bit. So what we want to do is we still have influence. So I like to, if you look at my inputs, sort of flick right and wiggle against the wall here. And you'll land on this standable right here. And we just jump to the door from here. It's actually pretty consistent. And you're no concern of missing the low trigger, obviously. But yeah, once again, I'll jump into here. Sometimes you'll land on a random standable. A lot of stuff here is standable, but they're all pretty obscure locations. So this is the most optimal strat. So now we want to jump and land on the door here. If you don't feel too confident about going straight to the door, you can land on this. This is all standable. And now we want to just transition the room. You can do this by jumping to the right, or you can just press the control stick to the right because you'll land on top of the door and it'll transition. Now there are two strategies for scaling this initial portion. Something I should mention is that we want to avoid the fight trigger for this room because the whole idea is that we want to do exo skip. So we want to avoid this sort of box right in front of us because if we hit this box, we just trigger the fight. So we want to avoid this. So I will first show off the easy strategy. When I was first learning this wall crawl, I started with jumping back here onto this. This is a very easy standable. And I jump up here to this sort of slope side. It's okay if you go too far, or because you can just hold L and you'll eventually get repositioned here, or you can hold L and try and slide to this, like I did with the backup strategy for that room. If you feel like you're too far, just bomb jump up. Now from here, we want to just jump up here. There's this small sort of line that's all standable right here. We want to jump on top of. And then we want to land about right. Actually, I can show that later because that is the spot we go to regardless of what strategy you're doing. Now the fast strat, alternatively, is to jump to the side. We want to land about right here. There's a very small standable on this collision right here. A lot of it is sticky collision, so it's very easy to undershoot it or overshoot it. If you do overshoot it, it's very likely that you will not be repositioned onto the standable. So if you go too high, like this, we want to flick away, or when you do fall, hold forward, so that way you will end up on the standable, like that. If you're too low, you're just gonna have to bomb jump up. Now from this standable, we want to go around to the edge of this. Once again, it's similar. There's a line that's standable here. And you have two options. The first one is just to go to this standable like we did with the other strat. Whoops, went a little too far left. Again, if you're ever stuck here, feel free to bomb jump. Or instead of going to there, we can perform a slope jump to the standable we're going to go to next. And this slope jump, I'm not sure if it's a slope jump. It may just be a jump, but I, in my experience, have better right here. Yeah, I have better luck with treating that as a slope jump. But we want to jump to this, about this standable right here. There are multiple standables all over the place here, but they're all quite small. It is relatively likely that you will land on one. See, I've just found one that's slightly higher up. They're all pretty random. I wouldn't worry too much about knowing the specifics of them, just generally knowing where they are will likely let you find one. We want to jump to this spot regardless of where you are. So let's go down here. Whoops. And we're going to see this standable in relation to this standable right here. I'm still not far enough. There we go. So again, up here, let's just jump. If we get stuck, just try and reposition, wiggle this control stick back a bit if you think you're too far to the side, because these standables are pretty out here. There we go. Now for this room, the best way to do this is to perform an R jump across from here over to sort of this bit of collision. It is a pretty small standable. If there is an easier method, I imagine it would be just doing a jump around here, and if once you get far enough, just do a bomb jump. That's probably the easier method. It's a little bit slower. It is very easy to curve this R jump too far to the side and fall like that. So try and make it an R jump where you hug the wall as much as you can. And also make sure you get far enough, because there's this sticky collision here that you will fall and you will not be able to make it back up. If you sort of see this polygon here above you, that means you're way too low. Bomb jump up and go to there. So now that we've reached this standable right here, we want to go up just a little bit because we need to transition to subchamber 1. So we need to get farther out there. And the best way to do that is just to jump up a little bit more here. There's, again, more collision here that you can stand on. It's just above you to the right of this sort of, I don't know, starburst. You can also stand on this starburst if you want, but I like going to this standable. It's just a very straightforward space jump to there. So from here, we need to get to a space where we can transition to subchamber 1. We can actually do it from here using an R jump, but that's very difficult. So we need to transition the room, but we also need to not hit this giant trigger, because if we do, this cutscene happens, which is basically the cutscene that would play if you were just saw the EXO cutscene and was entering the first subchamber. It looks like, oh, okay, I'm fighting EXO now, but EXO will not actually switch to any color. This is actually just a complete soft lock. So if this ever happens, reset, there's no way you're able to get out of here. I guess you can also die to EXO if you want. Just give him a big ol' hug. But we want to avoid that. So we can transition the room by doing this difficult R jump that I don't even like doing. It's very tough, but if you feel really confident in it, you can perform it. It's just very easy to hit that transition, or hit the cutscene trigger. So my favorite alternative that's still quite fast is to come up at this bulge here, sort of in the wall. We want to sort of jump near that. Or rather, excuse me. We want to jump onto that. Sorry, I was confusing with a different standable. So let's do a sort of curvy L jump towards it. If you don't feel confident, you can just sort of... Actually, you can probably make it with a normal jump. You just have to do some hugging. And you'll eventually end on this standable. We want to be sort of on the middle lower end of it, right like here. This will be a lot easier to transition the room that way. So again, the easiest way to do this is just a bit of a curvy L jump. Slide onto it like this if you want to look for the standable more carefully. So from here, I transition this room. And there's no real visual indicator for this. You just kind of have to know. I guess in your head, you can also, there's a period of time that you need to wait before you jump. Because if I just double jump like this, I'm going to go over the point where I can transition the room. But if I did something like this, I transition it. I'm just above it. So this is what I like to do, is I like to do a jump into an R jump and just wait a very brief amount of time. I'd say this is about 0.7, 1.6 seconds after my first jump. Probably less. But just wait a very brief amount of time as you do the jump. Jump, jump. Wait, let me see that. Jump, jump. Actually, that was not good. Jump, jump. There we go. That's much better. Jump, jump. Yeah. So just give that a lot of time. This is the portion that stops a lot of people besides the secret world. This is definitely one of my big gatekeeps, but you can get this down to a science. It's very consistent once you figure out how long you have to wait. And eventually you don't even need to use any indicator, you just know. So yeah, just take time on this. Don't feel frustrated if you don't get it a lot. It's very difficult. It's not something you're gonna get as you start. So from here, now that we've transitioned the room, we have to deal with EXO here. Also, let me turn down all these triggers because they are killing the frames. So now that we've transitioned to this next subchamber, we want to get all the way down here because these get progressively lower. So you're going to be in this position or looking at this angle when you're doing it. So from here, just hold back. You can hold back and left a little bit because we want to sort of align ourselves with the very edge of subchamber 1. So from here, what I like to use, if you see the little rectangular space here, I like to align myself with about the middle of that, and then we just morph. And then when you feel like you're inside of the Aether box of subchamber 1, you can morph. We don't want to accidentally ceiling warp into this room. If we do, then obviously it's a soft lock, and you can ceiling warp by morphing onto it and then unmorphing after you land instead of before you land. So here I land on a standable. Sometimes you won't land on a standable, but there's just a lot of small ones. It's somewhat likely that you'll actually land on one. If you do, what we want to do is we just want to jump forward and then hold back, go onto that standable. If you jump forward and it wasn't good enough, you can just double jump forward and then repeat the same process. If you, let's say we land here. Yeah, this is a good example. There's a lot of sticky collision like this where you just won't be able to move. If this does happen, just do a bomb jump out and hold forward like this. If you land on something standable, great. If you don't, hold L for a little while. It's very likely they'll find a standable. Let's see if we find one here. You don't have to hold L. You can just let the game reposition you. It may take a little bit, so if you prefer to bomb jump out, there we go, we found one. If you prefer to bomb jump to find one, go for it. What the heck? I have never seen that bug before. There we go. But you can use some indicators like this Tusk, I believe. Yeah, this one is a standable. I think this is standable. Yeah, there's a lot of small standables. Just whatever you do, don't go down here. Yes, here I believe is the spot. Because this is what I call the pit of doom, or the pit of death, because there is an invisible wall on the side here, and you cannot bomb jump out of here for crap. So you have to just slowly bomb jump out of here because there's nothing standable, and you will just get repositioned further downwards if you do that. So that happens, you're just gonna have to take the L and slowly bomb jump up here. There we go. But yeah. So we're gonna repeat that process. We found a standable. We're just gonna jump, hold back, do that with any standable. If you don't go too far, do a double jump and go back to your standable. Not a standable, bomb jump up and look for a standable. You can wait till you get repositioned, or you can try to bomb jump to a standable that you already know about. I know this Tusk here is standable. Fortunately, the game does not want to reposition me. So just Okay. Again, game that just didn't reposition me. There we go. Oh, I missed it. Yeah, again, all these channels are really small. So, well, okay. That one doesn't like me. So, we're going to move on to better things. Yeah, a lot of standables are on the other side. This one, not so much, because it's probably because we have the Pit of Death. There we go. Now I have a standable. But yeah, just look for one. If you know of one, try and go for it. So for the next part, we have to transition this room. And in order to do that, we have to fall down, commit a lot of down. And I'm going to show the fastest way to do this. I'm going to show the easiest way to do this. The fastest way to do this is to jump here and hug the wall. I recommend pressing the B button because we need to be in influence the whole time in order to slide down. So I'm going to hold to the right because we're sliding down. There I found a standable. We don't want to fall off that. So I jump so we stay in influence. And then I'm going to make sure we fall. So I go to the right here so we fall, and then I go to the left. And you want to go to the left as soon as you get past this point. And then once you do get here, you can just hold right and go into the Aether, or you can fall down some more before you get into it. Don't do this. This is bad. Let's replicate that. So hold into this, go to the side, slide down, and then go into the Aether. You optimally want to be as low as you can for something that I'll show next or later. So now I'm going to show the easy method, and the easy method is to hug the wall as much as you can, so that way you don't fall. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're limited influence, you can get into the Aether here, and you want to drop to about right here and just go into the wall, and wait till you fall and then hold forward. And once you hold forward, just turn the other direction and go down here. Basically the same thing you do for this, except you're at much less of a risk of anything bad happening. Whichever one works for you, go for it. This is just my recommended easiest method. If there might be an easier method that I'm not aware of, but this is the one that I recommend. Just hold into the wall when you fall, hold forward. Again, fastest method, jump here, spam the B button to make sure we're in influence, hold to the side as soon as you fall down there. Oh, you can get stuck like this sometimes, and sometimes you don't have standable. Just whenever that happens, go into the Aether. Okay, for this transition, we have to align ourselves with these three rectangles. We need to be down the middle. If you are too high, about right up here, I believe it's that actually, you'll land on that standable, and we don't want that because you won't be able to get any further, and the Aether box for this room is actually really, really small. So I'm low enough, but if you think if you're too high, you want to sort of be at a maximum of about the tip of this. You can align it with the front of your crosshair. If you're too high, it'll be above, I imagine. But yeah, if you're too high, just feel free to morph and unmorph. Just FYI, whenever you unmorph, you will always face Exo, which is why bomb jumps are a little punishing when you do it. Just keep that aware that you will not be able to do bomb jumps as easily. So for this transition, there's no easy versus fast method. It's just the same method in my experience. So what we want to do is we're going to hug the wall, and we are going to fall, and as soon as we fall, we need to hold forward. So I'm just going to hold forward into the wall, and I'm not really moving at all, which is a problem because we need to fall. So you're going to hug the wall, and you're going to let go, and you're going to get repositioned out. And as soon as you get repositioned out and you fall a bit, you hold forward. Or as soon as you get repositioned, you can probably hold forward. Reposition, hold forward. All right, hug the wall, let go, fall, hold forward. It's pretty simple. Hug the wall, fall, hold forward. Now from here, we can just let ourselves get repositioned because we are going to land on standable. You can also go to the side here and flick forward as you hobble up and down. You might get some more speed that way. But you don't actually have to do anything once you fall down here. You can just let yourself get repositioned here. And from here, we need to make our way over to subchamber 5. And the fastest way to do this is to perform an R jump and land sort of on the edge here for where the entrance is. As you can see, I'm in the very middle of it. And a lot of this is standable, but a lot of this isn't. But this is the easiest method. You also don't have to do a standable. You can do a curvy L jump like this. No, there's enough stand right there. Try and see just like with a regular L jump. Yeah, you can get relatively far with a regular one. So yeah, you can do that. There's no real easy method. I suppose for an easy method, you can sort of just hug the side of this and hope you find standables, and if you don't, just wiggle across. But yeah, we just need to make our way to that side over there. So here's, for this transition, we have to be a little bit careful because this is another opportunity to soft lock. Because we need to transition this room and hit the cutscene trigger. Well, if we hit the cutscene trigger, but the room is not transitioned, aka the room is still invisible, that's a soft lock. Let me save state and see if I can show that there. Okay, I did transition the room there. It is possible, but generally you will be able to transition the room. I'm gonna come to it from the side. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try, no. Here I'm making it seem like that's never an issue, but to be honest, it is like a genuine issue. I've had it before. But if the room appears, then you're perfectly safe. And this usually won't happen. At least you won't try to do it, obviously. Generally, just approaching from the side will always transition the room. Because if you're on a standable here and you're relatively close to it, literally all you have to do is jump and hold right. Let me try and show the trigger. Let's just look at all of them. Yeah, this box is the trigger. You could approach this from the side, actually. I think that'd be a good representation of what can happen. So I'm gonna jump and I'm gonna approach it from here. Nope. Wow, this transition must be too forgiving. But yeah, be careful if you fall, by the way. The Aether box for this thing is huge, as you can see by the room on the map. But yeah, just FYI, make sure that it's transitioned. It's usually not a risk if you're on something standable. Just go a bit to the right. If you're worried about the transition, or you're worried that you might not get it, you can flick to the right a bit and try and stay somewhat high. Just flick to the right a bit. As you can see, by the way, I'm in subchamber 4 right now. I end up transitioning the room, but you could just go back. Like, it's very easy to transition between them. Also, by the way, in this particular instance, you won't, when you're transitioning to this room, you won't unmorph facing EXO. Well, this way you will. Also, what the heck? That looks weird. Never seen that. But when you're transitioning to this room, if you get stuck on sticky collision, you can just do a normal bomb jump, because when you're transitioning to that room, you won't be facing EXO, because EXO is supposed to be dead by this point. So yeah, on a standable, go to the right. If you're not a standable, just bomb jump towards this, or you can try and reposition yourself onto a standable. Problem is that there's a lot of stuff where you'll just bob in place, or occasionally there will be. I don't seem to be able to find one, but if that does happen, just bomb jump towards this, and just hold right, and you'll enter this. So I think that's going to be the end of this tutorial. I hope this was informative. I didn't realize how long I've been recording for, but I wanted to make this as thorough as possible, since I know there's a lot of misconceptions and there's no real tutorial. Most people just copy wall crawls. So I hope this sheds some light on Exoskip, and keep practicing, and I'll see you all next mission. Take care.